she notices the man who doesn't look. The room hums with noise jokes, drinks, the little theater of people trying to be seen, and her eyes settle on the one face turned away. You've seen it, that subtle tilt, the small refusal, not cruelty, not contempt, something else, something magnetic. Listen, attraction is rarely logical. It's not an arithmetic of kindness minus ego. It's an economy of meaning, and scarcity has a strange power over the human heart. Schopenhauer named the engine beneath desire the will, a blind, persistent force that drives us to want what resists us. Stoics named the cure discipline and inner sovereignty. Tonight, I'm going to show you why the man who does not orbit becomes unforgettable. How this is not necessarily ignoring in the mean way people think, and how to translate that knowledge into dignity, not manipulation. Scene. Two men meet the same woman. One leans in early, quick smiles, a full confession on the second drink. He admires, praises, opens like a book. He gives and keeps giving. The other speaks less. He listens. He moves through the room with a calm that is not boredom, but a kind of inner fullness. He has limits. He is not always available. He doesn't vanish into flattery. Which one does she think about later? Which one is the test she replays in her head? There's a blunt truth here. Humans, men and women both, are wired to pay more attention to what's scarce. When something seems abundant, it becomes background noise. When something seems otherwise engaged in life, when a person is complete without your permission, your mind begins to work to bridge that gap. You become curious. You assign meaning. You chase. Schopenhauer's insight is useful. Desire intensifies when the object is not given freely. Desire needs resistance to define itself. That resistance is not cruelty, it's boundary. But let's be clear, I am not endorsing emotional games or cold manipulation. There is a difference between being scarce because you are emotionally unavailable, broken, or deceitful, and being scarce because you are full of purpose, of opinions, of life. The first is weakness trapped in strategy. The second is strength rooted in wholeness. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That line is not a moral lecture, it's a framework. If your worth depends on someone's attention, you have ceded power. If your presence is calm because your life is orderly and compelling, then your absence becomes meaningful. The woman who notices the man who doesn't look is not worshiping cruelty. She is recognizing a man who is not subject to her gravity. She respects a man who stands on his own axis. Now unpack that. Respect is not admiration for a facade. It's recognition of integrity. A man who withdraws because he is manipulating is transparent to feeling people. They feel it in the twitch of his generosity, in the way his apologies arrive like a rehearsed piece. Manipulation creates attraction for a brief moment, but leaves rot. Authentic absence, the kind born of priorities, purpose, and emotional hygiene, provokes a constructive response. She doesn't fall for your silence. She falls for the truth that you are whole without her. Schopenhauer's thought gives a darker mirror. He observed desire as a kind of hunger. It feeds on lack. When you give too much too soon, you remove the lack. You remove the engine. That's why the man who showers praise too soon becomes invisible. He becomes available, and availability destroys the challenge. If you want to be seen as valuable, you must cultivate self-possession. This is not the same as playing games. It's practicing the ancient art of self-sovereignty, being a man whose life is not defined by the flicker of another's attention. Let me tell you a specific scene, not hypothetical, but the kind you've lived. You text first. She answers slowly. You send another. You call. She's warm, then cool. Your palms sweat. You oversend. She smiles in person, then vanishes. Why? Because your eagerness removed friction. You became a solved problem. Attraction is not a math problem to be solved. It's attention to be held. When you make her chase you, she discovers herself in pursuit. She tests whether you are worth pursuit. That's human. It's not virtue or sin. It's biology and contingency, shaped by culture. So how do you apply this without being stupidest? First, build a life that doesn't need her approval. This is the real work. Get interests, projects, friendships, a morning routine, a calling that makes you feel full. When your energy comes from a larger source, your craft, your body, your friends, some mission you stop broadcasting need. You become scarce because you've already got something valuable to lose. This scarcity is honest. It is the byproduct of purpose, not the strategy of a con man. Second, practice measured presence. Say yes when you want to, and say no when you don't. Do not apologize for boundaries. Boundaries are not punishments, they are frames. When you keep your word to yourself, you grow magnetism. People sense it. A measured yes and a clean no are more powerful than any essay of affection. Epictetus would say, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In practice, this means you will be misunderstood at first. You will be labeled aloof. That's fine. Remember, it's not your job to perform for the crowd. Third, cultivate emotional stability. Learn to feel your feelings without immediate reaction. The Stoics train themselves to observe impulses and decide. When the phone buzzes, do not react out of scarcity. Wait. Breathe. Ask, what do I want to communicate from strength? That pause kills the frantic energy and replaces it with gravity. Women, like all humans, are attracted to presence that is calm under pressure. Fourth, be honest. Here's the difference between dignity and cruelty. Dignity says, I will not chase you because I value myself. Cruelty says, I will withhold because it gives me power. Keep the moral center. If you pull back to test, you risk turning someone's life into a battlefield. If you pull back because you are being prudent, because you're a man who will not be destabilized by fleeting validation, that's integrity. The difference is in your motive. Check yourself. A practical template. When you meet someone interesting, be engaged and direct in the moment. Speak your truth. Then live your life. If she texts and vanishes, don't fill the gaps with commentary. Maintain your routines. Respond in a timely but not hungry way. If she wants more, she will ask. If she disappears permanently, let her go. This isn't cold. It's a recognition that your time is finite and your energy sacred. Now let's talk about vulnerability, because some men hear this and think the solution is to become a statue. Don't. The strongest men I know are vulnerably whole. They are open but not needy. They have soft parts and iron spines. Vulnerability without surrender is medicine. Leaning on someone because you are empty is not vulnerability. It's dependency. Vulnerability that comes from a full cup is an invitation, not a demand. Here's a Stoic playbook for the inner game. Every morning, spend 5 minutes on a short inventory of priorities. Ask, what do I control? What do I not? Prepare yourself for small losses. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the things you think about determine the quality of your mind. So train your mind to accept that absence is not rejection of your worth. It is a fact of life. You will be ignored sometimes. That's not the verdict on you. It's the world testing your anchoring. And because you asked for Schopenhauer, his view is stark. He would say people are driven by will, and the world presents objects that the will seeks. Attraction is often about the game of the will, but we aren't required to be prisoners to that description. Use the observation, don't worship it. Recognize desire's mechanics and master your impulses. If the will wants to chase, the Stoic crafts intention and chooses where to expend energy. You must also learn social competence, the tactical side. This is not manipulation. This is craftsmanship. Text less. Send messages that have a purpose. Carry conversations that are memorable. Leave on a good note, not by disappearing mid-sentence. Be playful, not performative. Make your interactions feel like invitations to someone's life, not demands for attention. When you know how to be scarce graciously, you become memorable rather than missing. Be careful with social media. The world displays permission for attention. If you live in a feed where constant validation is the currency, practicing absence will cost you. It will feel like exile. That's the point. Your inner circle is not the same as your followers. Real scarcity is lived, not curated. Post less. Be present more. Let's address a real fear. What if you withdraw and she leaves? What if your measured absence means permanent loss? Then you are left with two choices: regret or pride. Regret is the posture of a man whose identity is bound to outcomes. Pride, not arrogance, is the posture of a man who knows he showed up honestly and can live with the result. The Stoics tell us to prefer action aligned with virtue to guaranteed approval. Over time, the men who cultivate this balance attract partners who are attracted to depth, not drama. Now, a cautionary note about misuse. Some men will read this and weaponize it. They will ghost, ignore, and emotionally abuse. That's not scarcity. That's cruelty. If you are hiding an absence because you are too afraid to deal with your feelings, or because you enjoy the power of hurting others, you are failing the moral test. Use these ideas to grow, not to injure. The highest practice is to be whole and generous within boundaries. I'll give you an anatomy of how real attraction often unfolds. Curiosity leads to attention, attention to investment, investment to meaning. If you remove effortless availability early, curiosity finds space to grow. The mind starts to build narratives. Humans fill blanks with stories. When you are absent in a way that suggests you are busy with life, the story she builds about you is magnificent. When you are present in a way that suggests you have nothing else, the story is small. This is not manipulation. It's narrative economics. Be deliberate about what you allow people to believe about you. Another practical moment. When she seeks reassurance, respond with clarity, not panic. I'm here. I like you. I have other things going on. That sentence contains everything. Affirmation plus boundaries. It tells her you are interested and you are not needy. That balance is attractive because it models security. We should also talk about dignity in the aftermath. If she chooses someone else who dismisses her, don't gloat. If she returns later, don't perform as if nothing happened to be measured. The highest power is to be a man who has moved forward. If she comes back with nostalgia, test the motives. If her return is a real reorientation toward honest connection, consider. If it's a convenience, decline. You owe her compassion, not access. Finally, this is about inner transformation. The man who becomes magnetic through absence does not do it to gain women as trophies. He does it because he values his attention and wants to steward it well. Scarcity is not a trick. It is a consequence of value. Value not from external praise, but from internal policy. Build a life that commands attention because it is rich, not because it is performative. I'll close with a pair of short quotes to sit with. Schopenhauer: "You can do what you will, but you cannot will what you will." Let that remind you that desire arises, but you choose your discipline. Marcus Aurelius: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Use that power. Anchor your energy in projects, in character, in practices that give your life weight." So here's the quiet call. Do the inner work. Start small. Stop urgent texting. Honor your routines. Read one book a month that enlarges you. Go to the gym not to impress, but to be fit for life. Practice saying no without dramatic gestures. Learn to sit with silence and find comfort there. The point is not to be unkind or unreachable. The point is to be whole enough that absence is meaningful because your presence is not a plea. And as you practice, remember the moral line. Use scarcity to preserve integrity, not to inflict pain. Be a man who earns respect by being his own authority. Be a man whose life is an answer, not a question mark waiting for approval. Be the kind of man who can walk into a room and not need anyone to prop him up. That is the man who people, rightly or wrongly, will notice. Quiet final note. The world will always try to sell you a fast route to attention. Ignore that voice. Build slowly. Choose depth. Keep your dignity. Live richly. If someone respects you for your indifference, let that be a signal, not a score. Let your real measure be how much of yourself you can give without losing yourself. That is the hard, beautiful work. Call to action. Today, for 1 week, honor one boundary. No urgent texting. One unbroken morning routine. One 40-minute work block without distraction. Notice how the world shifts. If you like what happens, keep building. If not, you will at least have started to move from hunger toward sovereignty. Keep steady, keep honest,